I paid for my brother's wedding and even gave him a luxury honeymoon package, but when the wedding was over, I overheard him sincerely say, "I wish my parents hadn't even come." They laughed. "Oh, it's just a joke." I smiled, but when my brother arrived at the airport the next day, he discovered that his luxury suite had been changed to a destination he would never forget. My name is Iker Fernandez. I'm 30 years old and work as a financial analyst in Barcelona. Good salary, long hours, constant pressure. My job allows me some occasional luxuries, but not for me, but for my family, especially for my younger brother, Hugo. I loved him. Or at least I thought I did. I practically raised him. Our parents weren't bad people, just distant. Dad was always working, and Mom lived in her own world where Hugo could do no wrong. So I stepped in. I bought him his first video game console when our parents said it was an unnecessary expense. I paid his university tuition so he wouldn't be in debt. When he wrecked his car at 22, I bought him a new one because he needed it for work. And when he and his fiancée Valeria started planning their dream wedding, I didn't hesitate. I paid for everything. The venue, the catering, the flowers, the live music, absolutely everything. And as a wedding gift, I booked them a week-long honeymoon in the Balearic Islands, with a private villa, first-class flights, and a personal butler. Because that's what older brothers do, right? I was exhausted after months of extra work to make it all happen, but seeing Hugo happy was worth it. At least I thought so until the end of the wedding. It happened by accident. The reception was winding down, guests were leaving, and I stepped outside for some air. That's when I heard Hugo's voice from across the patio. "Honestly, I wish my parents hadn't even come." I froze. Valeria laughed. "Oh, come on, don't be cruel." "I'm serious," Hugo replied. "He just throws money around like it makes him part of the family. It's embarrassing." Mom's voice chimed in then. "Oh, honey, don't be cruel. He just wants to feel important. You know how he is." Dad chuckled. "Well, at least he's good for something." And then they all laughed. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. I wanted to go out there and confront them, but I couldn't move. It wasn't just what Hugo had said, it was how casual it sounded, like it wasn't the first time, like they'd said things like that many times before. Maybe they had. A memory flashed through my mind. Hugo at 16 playing with a brand new Xbox I'd saved up for months to buy him. "This isn't the right one," he'd said, frowning at the box. "Ruben has the elite version. You should have asked me first." Another memory. Him at 20 taking the keys to the car I bought him after he wrecked his first one. "At least it's not a Renault Clio," he muttered, already texting someone. And another. Him at 25 drunk at a family dinner, laughing with our cousins. "Uncle Iker is awesome. He's like a rich uncle who doesn't have kids. You just ask him for something, and he buys it for you." Back then I laughed along with them. I told myself he didn't mean it, that it was just a joke. But standing there, outside his wedding, listening to them laugh at me like I was some pathetic, desperate fool, it was different. I should have walked away. I should have let it go. But I didn't. Because Hugo and Valeria were getting on a plane the next morning, and the honeymoon I'd gifted them was still something I could change. And believe me, I did. I don't know how long I stood outside, gripping the doorframe like it was the only thing holding me up. Their laughter still echoed in my ears, their words repeating over and over in my head. "Honestly, I wish my parents hadn't even come. He just wants to feel important. At least he's good for something." The worst part was nobody denied it. I swallowed, forcing myself to move. I couldn't stand there like an idiot forever. I had to go back inside, smile, play my part one last time. Inside, the reception was still going strong. People were dancing, drinking, laughing. The band was playing some upbeat pop song that a group of bridesmaids were enthusiastically singing along to. As if the air outside hadn't just been thick with the sound of my family mocking me. And then I saw him. Hugo, the golden child, my little brother, the one I'd looked out for my entire life. As soon as his eyes landed on me, his face lit up completely. "Iker. There you are, Tio." He strode over, throwing an arm around my shoulders, reeking of expensive whiskey and celebration. "Tio, I was just telling Valeria. You're the best brother in the world. Seriously, I don't know what I'd do without you." His smile was wide, his eyes glassy with alcohol, but his words were smooth, rehearsed, like he'd said them a million times before. And maybe he had. Every time he needed something. Hermano, you gotta help me out, just a couple of months, I swear. You're the best, seriously. But this time it didn't feel the same. Because now I knew the truth. I forced a smile. Of course, Tio, whatever you need. I almost choked on my own words. See, that's why I tell people I have the best brother in the world. Hugo laughed, tightening his arm around my shoulders as he turned to Valeria. Right, Carino? He's the best. Valeria smiled too, but I noticed how she avoided my eyes. Maybe she felt guilty. Maybe she didn't care. It made no difference. I just had to make it through the rest of the night. I let Hugo gush about how grateful he was. I let him toast to me in front of his friends. I let our parents smile at me like I was perfectly fulfilling my role. But inside something was shifting. For the first time I didn't feel like their brother. I felt like a fool. That night I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Honestly, I wish my parents hadn't even come. I turned on my side, my eyes burning. He just throws money around like it makes him part of the family. I clenched my fists under the covers. At least he's good for something. I forced myself to sit up, my pulse pounding in my ears. Enough. I grabbed my phone, opened the family chat, and started scrolling through years of messages. At first glance, everything looked normal. Birthday photos, holiday plans, random updates. But the more I looked, the more I noticed the pattern. Every conversation was a transaction. Hugo. Iker. Can you pay for my flight home for Christmas? I'm short on cash this month. Mom, Carino, Hugo's car needs repairs. You're doing so well, could you help out? Dad. Your brother and Valeria really want a big wedding. I told them you'd be happy to contribute. Not a single. How are you? Not a single thank you for everything. Just requests, demands, expectations. And I'd always said yes. Because that's what older brothers do, right? I closed my eyes and let my mind wander back through the years. I was 14 when Hugo was born. I still remember the day Mom and Dad brought him home. He was this tiny wrinkled thing, and I remember promising myself right then and there that I would always take care of him. And I did. When our parents were too busy, I was the one who helped him with his homework. When he scraped his knee, I was the one who carried him home. When he wanted the most expensive sneakers in high school, I worked extra shifts at my part-time job to buy them for him. And he knew it. Iker will do it, Mom would say whenever Hugo needed something. And I always did, even when he started to take it for granted. Like the time he wrecked his first car. He'd been reckless, speeding on a rainy night. The insurance payout barely covered the damages, and he called me, desperate. Hermano, you gotta help me out. I can't ask Mom and Dad. Dad would kill me. So I bought him another car. A used one but still reliable. His response. At least it's not a Renault Clio. I should have been angry, but I laughed it off, convincing myself he was just embarrassed that deep down he appreciated it. Then there was the time he needed money for an apartment deposit. Tio, I swear I'll pay you back, just a couple of months, I promise. That was 4 years ago. I never saw a single euro. I let it go because that's what older brothers do. But the wedding, that was supposed to be different. It wasn't a last-minute favor. It was me giving him the wedding of his dreams, something neither Hugo nor Valeria could have afforded on their own. I worked overtime, I turned down vacations. I bent over backward to make sure they had the perfect day. And still it wasn't enough. To them I wasn't family. I was just a wallet with a pulse. And for the first time I saw it for what it was. I looked at the time. 3:42 a.m. Hugo and Valeria's flight was leaving in 6 hours. I opened my laptop. If I was just a wallet to them, it was time to close the account. I sat alone in my apartment, the glow of the screen illuminating the room. The booking details were right in front of me. The cursor blinking over the edit button. Hugo and Valeria's flight was just 6 hours away. I'd never been a vindictive person, but this was different. I clicked on the honeymoon package I'd originally booked them. A luxury private villa in the Balearic Islands, with a personal butler, first-class service, and an all-inclusive gourmet experience. A dream trip. The kind of luxury most people could only fantasize about. I hovered over the cancel option. But that felt too easy. Leaving them stranded with no honeymoon would be a disappointment. Yes, but I wanted something they would never forget. I scrolled through the available accommodation options, looking for something that would really make an impact. Then I found it. Same island, different experience. A rustic beach adventure package. Instead of a luxury villa, they'd be staying in a shared beach hut. No air conditioning, no private pool. No staff catering to their every whim. A simple mosquito net would be their only protection against the bugs. Shared bathrooms, cold showers, no Wi-Fi. Just the authentic island experience, as the resort described it. I clicked Modify Booking. Their first-class flights remained the same. I wanted them to step off the plane expecting paradise, and then have reality hit them like a ton of bricks. The airport send-off the next morning. I arrived at Barcelona El Prat Airport under the guise of seeing them off. Valeria greeted me with an overly sweet smile while Hugo clapped me on the back. "Tio, I still can't believe you did this," he said, shaking his head. "Best wedding gift ever. You're a legend, hermano." Valeria chimed in with a smug expression. I told Hugo he's lucky to have such a generous brother. Not everyone would do something like this. I just smiled. "Well, you guys deserve the best." I had no idea. As we walked toward security, Hugo continued to chatter about how amazing the resort was going to be. "Did you see the pictures? That infinity pool? And the Villa Tio right on the water? It's gonna be insane." Valeria nudged him with a smile. "I just hope we get a good butler." My friend Natalia said the staff makes all the difference. I smiled to myself. "Oh, I'm sure it will be unforgettable." I hugged them both and watched them disappear through security. As soon as they were out of sight, I turned and walked out of the airport. I knew my phone would start ringing soon. The arrival, the reality check. I was halfway through my dinner when I got the first message. "Hugo, what is this disaster?" I smiled and took another bite of my steak. "Hugo, where's the villa? Why are we in some kind of hostel on the beach? There's no AC, Tio." I left the message unanswered for a few minutes before picking up my phone. Then another one arrived. "Valeria. Iker, there must be some mistake. The receptionist said this is our booking. There are other people in the hut next door. I can hear them snoring." I put my phone down on the table and leaned back, picturing the scene. Hugo standing there in his fancy vacation attire, sweat beading on his forehead as he realized there was no butler, no welcome champagne. Just a rickety wooden hut with a barely functioning fan. Valeria, absolutely horrified, clutching her designer handbag as she tried to process the fact that she'd have to shower with cold, salty water and sleep on a bamboo bed with a thin mattress. I imagined her looking around, taking in the other guests. Budget travelers, backpackers, couples in their 40s wearing cargo shorts and flip-flops, laughing at the idea of the rustic experience. Not exactly the high society honeymoon she'd envisioned. "Hugo, hermano, you're kidding, right? Call the hotel. Fix this." I took a sip of my wine, put my phone on silent, and enjoyed the best meal I'd had in weeks. They'd laughed at me. Now I was laughing. The morning after the explosion. The next morning I woke up to 13 missed calls. Hugo, Valeria, even my mother. The family chat was a war zone. "Hugo, call me now." "Valeria. Iker, what did you do?" "Mom." "Iker. Whatever happened with your brother's honeymoon, you need to fix it. This is unacceptable." "Dad. Your brother won't stop calling me. Sort this mess out." I stretched, yawning, feeling more rested than I had in years. Then just as I was about to put my phone down, a video from Hugo came through. I opened it. The screen loaded with a shaky, poorly lit recording. The camera panned between Valeria, who was on the verge of a meltdown, and Hugo, who looked ready to murder someone. "I can't believe this," Valeria shrieked, her voice high-pitched and trembling. "There's sand everywhere. I can't sleep like this. There are bugs in the bathroom. Hugo, fix this." Hugo swung the camera to his own sweaty, sunburned face. "Iker, call me back. You better have a damn good explanation for this." The video cut off. I couldn't help it. I laughed so hard I almost fell out of bed. This was better than I could have ever planned. The call from hell. By midday, I decided I'd tortured them enough. I finally answered when Hugo called again. "What?" "Iker." His voice was thick with pure rage. "Where's our honeymoon suite? Where's the butler? Why are we stuck in whatever this place is?" I took a deep breath, keeping my tone calm. "Oh, I thought you wanted the authentic experience." Silence. Valeria's voice chimed in the background. "This isn't funny, Iker. We're sleeping on what's basically a wooden plank. The restaurant is a shack on the beach. I had to eat grilled fish on a paper plate. Do you have any idea how humiliating this is? I smiled. Humiliating? Or do you mean he just throws money around like it makes him part of the family? Or, at least he's good for something. Silence. Yes, I continued, letting my words sink in. I heard it all, Hugo. You mom, dad. To you I was just a useful idiot, right? Hugo exhaled sharply. Hermano, come on, it was just a joke. You know we didn't mean it. I almost laughed again. Sure, Hugo. Just like this is just a joke. Valeria growled. Okay, you made your point. Now fix this. I let out a fake sigh. I'd love to help, but, well, my money is just for feeling important, remember? Wouldn't want to embarrass you guys again. Hugo roared in frustration and the line went dead. I leaned back, exhaling. Felt good. Really good. Mom's last chance. That night I got a call from Mom. I let it ring 3 times before answering. Iker, she started in that clipped, authoritative tone she always used when I wasn't doing what she wanted. I don't know what kind of stunt you pulled, but your brother and Valeria are devastated. Do you have any idea how much stress you've caused them? I leaned back in my chair. About as much stress as being ridiculed at your wedding after paying for the whole thing, Mom. She sighed as if I was the one overreacting. It was just a misunderstanding, Carino. You took it too personally. I clenched my jaw. There it was. The same gaslighting, the same excuses, the same, Iker, you're overreacting that I've been told for years. It's over, Mom, I said coldly. Hugo's learning what it feels like to be taken for granted. Consider it a lesson. She scoffed. So that's it? You're going to let your brother and his wife suffer? I let out a sarcastic laugh. Suffer? You mean stay at a fully functional beach resort on a tropical island? Sounds like a dream, Mom. Iker, she snapped, her voice sharp. We raised you better than this. I finally dropped the mask. No, Mom, you raised me to be the family ATM. And I'm closing the bank. I hung up before she could respond. Hugo's last attempt. 2 days later I got another call. Hugo. I hesitated to ignore it, but curiosity won. Iker. His voice was strained, defeated. Look, Hermano, I get it now. I raised an eyebrow. Really? He let out a bitter laugh. Yeah, because ever since you cut us off, I'm finally seeing all the stuff you actually did for us. I leaned back in my chair. Must be tough when you're talking ATM is no longer available, huh? Hugo sighed. I deserved that. I waited. After a long pause, his voice softened. I miss you, Hermano. I felt a lump form in my throat. It was the first time in years he'd said something genuine to me. For a moment I almost caved. Almost told him I missed him too. But then I remembered everything. The wedding, the laughter behind my back, the years of being used. And I realized I owed him nothing. I took a deep breath. Hugo, I don't know if we'll ever be okay again. Silence. But if you really get it now, show me. Not with words, with actions. Hugo swallowed. Yeah, okay. I hung up. I didn't block his number, but I didn't contact him again either. Some bridges weren't meant to be rebuilt. The final closure. A few weeks later, I got a text from an unknown number. Valeria. It was short, cold. Congratulations. You got what you wanted. Hope you're happy. I stared at the screen for a moment before deleting the message. Yes, I got what I wanted, peace. And for the first time in my life I was truly happy. A new beginning. It had been 2 weeks since Hugo and Valeria's disastrous honeymoon. The calls stopped. The messages disappeared. My family's desperate attempts to manipulate me into fixing their problems finally ceased. And for the first time in years my life was quiet. First I didn't know what to feel. There was a strange emptiness where all the stress used to be. No more late-night texts from Hugo asking for money. No more passive-aggressive hints from Mom trying to guilt me into something. Just silence. But then I realized that emptiness wasn't loneliness. It was peace. A trip for me. I booked a vacation for myself. A real vacation. Not a sacrifice, not a gift for someone else, but something just because I wanted it. I spent 10 days traveling through Spain, exploring the streets of Madrid, eating pasta at sunset, drinking wine without worrying about anyone else's problems. At first, it felt surreal, the idea that I didn't have to answer to anyone, that nobody had a claim on my time or my money. Then one night, as I sat at a small cafe in Granada, watching the sunset behind the rooftops, it hit me. I'd spent my entire life being the good son, the good brother, the fixer, the payer, the one who put everyone else before himself. And what had I gotten in return? Disrespect, manipulation, betrayal. Now I was free.